Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the blues of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. Man, the theater of all of these politics and all of the shit that goes on in this organization and even outside of it is ridiculous. It needs to come to an end. It needs to stop. It is ridiculous. This is why I don't involve myself in politics, because it's all a dog and pony show. Everyone's out to get as much attention for themselves as possible. And that's the day and age that we live in. Social media has created this environment, and everybody wants to say, hey, look at me. Everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame. And so the Attorney General doing what he did yesterday was another example of someone trying to grab the light and shine it on themselves. The announcement that he made yesterday built up this huge expectation of what was to come, only for this man to announce that he was going to sue the Commanders, Daniel Snyder, the NFL, Roger Goodell, for colluding to deceive the DC public, in which are most, fans of the team, about the toxic work culture and environment. Like, what are you doing, dude? That was the announcement? You needed a press conference for that? Like, we're past that already. Like, at this point now, if you're not talking about some kind of litigation against Daniel Snyder personally, if you're not talking about him, having some issues with financial improprieties, if you're not dropping some type of bombshell about, hey, we got a new witness that came forward that has complained about Daniel Snyder, if it's not something different, unique, something that is going to put an exclamation point on getting Dan the hell out of here, then get the hell out of my face. I'm never, ever going to defend Daniel Snyder for anything. Nothing. Okay. But to me, this was an embarrassment. This announcement. At the end of the day, these types of things don't happen. These major announcements don't happen if Daniel Snyder isn't a part of this organization. What the Attorney General was looking to do is continue to further embarrass Daniel Snyder, which I don't have a problem with. I personally don't care about that. My problem is every time something like this happens, you throw out that fishing reel, and a lot of times what you're attempting to catch, you get a lot more than what you bargained for. We just want Daniel Snyder gone. I don't want any of the theatrics. This was theater. The whole announcing of a press conference and then having that be the announcement, that's theater. I don't want any of the theater. Please miss me on the theater, okay? I don't need popcorn. I don't need to sit down in my seat, turn out all the lights, and watch this unfold. I just want it done. I've been dealing with this for over 20 years. I don't want to watch any more of this. I don't want any more Brian Robinson, statements where my guy's getting drugged through the mud. I don't want any more of the low road with this organization, with Daniel Snyder, with his lawyers, with all the people. Jason Wright had to come out and issue a statement essentially distancing himself and some of those in the organization from the statement that was made by Daniel Snyder's lawyers. I'm sick of all of that. I just want it to be done. I just want this to be over. These things don't happen to other organizations. Other teams don't have to worry about attorney generals holding a press conference to talk about suing the organization and the league. Because other teams don't have politicians aiming for them, trying to embarrass them. Everything that happens in this organization, a lot of you try, some of you, not a lot of you, I shouldn't say that. That's a false statement, and that's inaccurate. Some of you will always go back to, well, what does that have to do with Dan Snyder? Snyder didn't have anything to do. Everything has to do with Dan Snyder. Everything. It all comes full circle. Every time you try to distance yourself, it always comes back to the guy that has everything centered around him, and that's Daniel Snyder. That's why we'll never win anything of substance until he's gone. Nothing meaningful can happen to this organization in a positive manner until he is gone. Because even when he doesn't do anything, he's still doing something. This is the last time I'll talk about this. And usually I stay away from this type of shit because this is usually what happens. Okay? I love Ron's interesting versus important. This whole press conference shit, interesting. There was nothing important that was gleaned from this. There was no exclamation point. I was looking for an exclamation point. Oh, Dan's ass is gone now. That's what I was looking for. I didn't get that. That would have been important. This shit was interesting. If it's not important at this point, I don't care. I don't have time for interesting. Especially when there's a football game in 4 days. I don't have time for interesting. The football game is important. Daniel Snyder selling this organization is important. Anything that leads to him selling this organization is important. This lawsuit, interesting. Nothing new is going to be gained from this. Nothing is going to come of this, if you want to be honest. This is interesting. Miss me with interesting. I've had enough interesting over the 22-year span that Daniel Snyder has owned this team. I've had enough interesting. If it ain't important, please bypass me. Thanks. In other news, we heard from Ron. We heard from Taylor Heineke. Injury reports for the week are out. I don't even need to go to the injury report. I'll save you the time. The Eagles are healthy. They played on Thursday Night Football. They don't have any major injuries. They got one guy that's impactful that may not play. He was out of practice today with a hamstring injury, and that's Avonte Maddox. Other than that, they had at least 15 guys on the injury report, all of them for rest purposes. They're as healthy as they can be, okay? So we're not dealing with a banged-up team. They're coming off of a pseudo bye week with that Thursday night game. They just had a bye week prior to that. They're feeling really good, okay? So there's nothing to see here from an Eagles standpoint. From the Washington side of things, the guys that we really care about, I don't think we really incurred any real new injuries, which is something we can be thankful for as we get closer to the season of giving and giving thanks. We can be thankful that nothing really occurred in that Vikings game from an injury standpoint. So we're still talking about the same group of guys. We're still talking about Jahan Dotson. We're still talking about Chase Young. We're still talking about Cole Holcomb. That's the core group of guys that we're looking to try to get back. On that front, Jahan Dotson practiced today. He got positional work. Still kind of limited in that team drill aspect. They're going to continue to work him back. So his designation limited today, okay? But he did practice, which is a far cry from where we've been with him the last 3 weeks where he hasn't practiced at all. So he's, I think, trending towards playing. But again, we saw this same movie before a few weeks back when we thought he was coming back, and then he retweaked the hammy like a day or two before the game. And, you know, we went through this whole song and dance with him again. So nothing is set in stone with Jahan Dotson. It's touch and go. It's day to day. And so we're hoping that this time around we get the full health of Jahan Dotson, get him back on the field, and we can see what this kid can do. And, you know, it's funny because you know how fans can be very fickle. You watch Chris Olave do what he did on Monday night and what he's done throughout the season. And the biggest difference between the two receivers is health. But you'll have people saying, we should have taken Olave. Look, Olave is the better receiver. And I just look and say, Jahan Dotson hasn't played in over a month, and he's still tied for 4th in the NFL in touchdown receptions. The kid is a baller, just got to stay healthy. The availability is the best ability, and he hasn't been available, and that hasn't been something throughout his career that's been a problem. This is not his MO. So the sooner we get him back on the field, the sooner he'll be able to continue to show why he was a first-round pick for this football team. Hopefully that begins this week. But again, we will see. Take it day at a time, one day at a time. Same thing can be said for Chase Young. One day at a time. He practiced today. I would call his practice today full. Okay, participated in team drills, participated in individual drills. Looked good according to Ron Rivera. Rivera's like, I wasn't even really focused on him in particular, just watching the team as a whole. Did see a couple of his pass rushes. He looked good. But again, it's all about tomorrow. It's all about the next day. And it's always been that way with Ron. He's been consistent in that manner because they put a workload on his plate. Want to see how he responds to it, see how his body responds to it. If all goes well, we'll do it again on Thursday or Friday, rather. If all goes well there, then you go through Saturday, which will be more of a glorified walkthrough. And then if everything checks out, I think they'll activate him on Sunday, and he'll be playing on Monday. I think he's playing this week. That's what I've heard. That's what I've been told. That's what I'm hearing. And so I told you guys last week, I was told that they were aiming for Monday night and that he wasn't going to play last week. I think that's what the plan has been all along. And that's what they're going to go ahead and go through with if everything continues to work itself out. If everything continues to go the way that they planned, Monday night will be Chase Young's debut for the 2022 season. I think Jahan Dotson is another guy that they're trying to get back on the field this week. Again, we will see. But he's got to get through this week without any setbacks. Cole Holcomb is a totally different story. He did not practice at all today, was not out on the practice field. Ron talked about them working him, in the pool. And so, again, they're still trying to take a lot of the pressure off of his foot. I don't think he's playing this week. And for that matter, I don't know if he's even close to coming back, as close as we thought he might be. He might have been a candidate for IR, and they just didn't want to come to grips with that because he's already missed 2 games. I don't think he's playing this week. And then you go and you see what happens next week against Houston. That would make it 4 weeks and a month. And if he doesn't play there either, you could have put him on IR because you're holding up a roster spot with Cole Holcomb. You just don't know. They didn't know. He could have healed up a lot faster. But, when you're talking about a foot and for a position, really with this sport in general, it's just hard to do anything without your foot being healthy. And I don't know the exact extent, like if he's got a Liz Frank injury or, what kind of a sprain does he have? Where is it located? All of that matters. I think we're going to be without Cole Holcomb another week, and this is not the game to not have Cole Holcomb, to be honest with you. You're going up against a high-powered Eagles offense that you need all the athletic bodies that you can get on the football field. John Bostic wasn't terrible last week, but John Bostic is John Bostic. David Mayo was back on the practice field with his hamstring injury, but he's David Mayo. Like, we're not clamoring for David Mayo to get back on the football field. We're in trouble. In that little portion of the field, right in the middle of the football, that's where the Eagles do most of their damage. A lot of slants, a lot of RPOs, a lot of quick decisions that have to be made by your linebackers. I don't trust anybody but Cole Holcomb in that position, and he's not going to be available. I don't like the position that the defense is going to be put in with John Bostic and or David Mayo being on the field, and that's going to be the case. Ron did say that they're going to take a look at Cole tomorrow. I don't think he's going to practice tomorrow again. I don't think he's going to play this week, but we'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope tomorrow he hits the practice field, does a little bit of work, with his position group, doesn't do anything major, but it's a sign and a step in the right direction. I just don't see that happening. I don't see him practicing in any capacity this week again. I don't see him playing this week, and then we'll go through the song and dance next week of him potentially being ready to go against the Texans the following week. But we'll see. Now, as far as Ron is concerned, Ron spoke, and I told you what his press conference was going to be like, right? It went exactly the way that I thought it was. First 3 questions of the presser or so were regarding the whole Brian Robinson situation in the Attorney General. More of it skewed towards the comments made by Daniel Snyder's lawyers that involved, excuse me, Brian Robinson. And he talked about addressing it with the team, this, that, and the third. Talked about distractions and said, "Look, you're the guys that provide the distraction. If you guys don't talk about it, it's not a distraction. It only becomes a distraction." Which Ron understands. He's a smart guy. The media has a job to do. They're going to ask the questions because that's what they have to do. But he had to deal with that, and it was just funny because he would deal with that. It would be 3 or 4 questions on that. He also had some, questions about his well-being and his mom's, passing and all of that. So there was a little bit of that mixed in, right? John Keim did a good thing by starting off the press conference by acknowledging that. But then, of course, he went straight to the Brian Robinson comment stuff. So after that, you get a football question because Ron gets a little riled up. You get a football question, and then the next person gets the mic, and they go right back to the Brian Robinson stuff, and the distractions. And so we go. It was like a cycle, and then you get 3 or 4 football questions, and then somebody will get the mic, and they'll go back to the Brian Robinson stuff, right? And the distractions. And so, Ron, all he did was just smile because he knew it was going to be that type of day. He's a veteran. He's been doing this long enough. He knows how this works. And not only is he a veteran, he's been here long enough to know now this is the shit that comes with the territory. I guarantee you, if you gave Ron truth serum, he would never say this because the Snyders gave him an opportunity. They've probably been nothing but gracious to him and his family. So he's got nothing really bad to say about the Snyders. But he understands the only reason his job has been made this tough is because of Daniel Snyder. Okay? So I guarantee you, if you gave him truth serum, he'd tell you, I wish they would just sell the team and allow us to start anew. Now, here's the only thing that I would say that it could be a drawback to Ron and why Ron may not want him to sell, because that's the guy that hired him. There's an allegiance to Ron and wanting to see Ron succeed because they hired him. The next guy comes in, the next ownership group comes in, they don't have any allegiance to Ron. They didn't hire Ron, and they would prefer to get their own people in there. So then Ron becomes expendable. He's been through this before with the Carolina Panthers when Jerry Richardson sold the team. And the next owner came in, gave him a year, didn't work out for half of a year, and Ron got canned. So he's been through this before, and I really, truly think that Ron is kind of skeptical. Like, I've been through this, and if this thing goes through and he sells and the next ownership group comes in here, our clock starts. I've been through it before. And we're going to have a limited amount of time to prove to them that we belong here, or else they're going to get rid of us. So I think Ron, as long as Snyder was here, Ron was going to be safe because they've got so much shit going on. But Ron was like, look, I just want to coach the team and talk about football. We got a big game on Monday night. Like, which it's frustrating because it's hard for them to just focus on the game as much as they would like to. Not with this shit going on. Whether it's the selling of the team or, all of that. Speaking of which, selling the team, did you see Benjamin St. Juste speak out against Daniel Snyder, essentially? It's the first time I can remember a player in the 23 years now that Snyder's owned the team. This is the first time I've ever heard a player publicly criticize Daniel Snyder in the manner that Benjamin St. Juste did. Good for him. I'm pretty sure Ron Rivera would prefer Benjamin St. Juste to toe the company line and keep it about football and steer clear of answering questions like that. But Benjamin St. Juste, the one thing I can say about him since he's got here, he's been a straight shooter. Remember I told you the comments he made about Taylor Heineke, about, look, he's going to make some mistakes and, he's going to give the other team a chance, but we love the chance that he gives us. And the dude, you give him the football late in the game, he's going to make something happen. Everybody else was hyper complimentary of Taylor Heineke. Like, yeah, he's a gamer. They do all of that shit that we hear all the time. Oh, man, this guy, you know, he's a baller. Like Logan Thomas, he's a baller. Logan, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't just be throwing around the B word. He's not a baller. He's a really solid NFL quarterback that in clutch moments will give you an opportunity. But a baller? Let's reserve that for the guys that are truly ballers, right? That's not what Benjamin St. Juste is out here doing. He's not just out here speaking just to talk. When he speaks, he's going to give you his real feelings, all right? And so he had a comment pretty much saying, I think, he said, every time we do something good on the field, there's something to counter that off the field that's negative. So we never really get to fully enjoy the fruits of our labor. We've always got to deal with something. And he said, frankly, I just think it'd be best if they sold and we just got a fresh start. Everybody got a fresh start. They got a fresh start, get to do whatever it is they want to do. We get a fresh start as players, coaches, because we deserve that. We put in the work, we put in the time, and yet we always find ourselves having to answer questions, having to talk about something that has nothing to do with us. It'd be great. It's like this black cloud, he said, that's over the organization, and it'd be great to have a fresh start. Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? This guy just got here, man. Kid's been here 3 years. 2 years? I think he was a rookie last year. And he's wise beyond his years. Didn't take him but a year and a half to figure out, yeah, we should probably have a new owner. This sucks. This can't happen fast enough. Can't happen fast enough. Ron gave us the updates that I just gave you about Chase Young, about Jahan Dotson, Cole Holcomb. So we'll continue to watch those guys, see what happens. Nobody asked him about whether or not we were going to see Sam Cosmi back in the lineup. You know, everybody was so fixated on the comments that were made and all of the stuff that really, truly, if you're a fan of the team, if it's not Daniel Snyder selling and it's not the team actually playing the game, all that other shit, I really don't care about. So personally, I would like to know, is Sam Cosmi going to be back at right tackle this week? But nobody even cared to ask about that. What's going on with Wes Schweitzer? Is he back off of IR or what? Like, these are questions that I, as a fan, would like to know. But again, those are a little too nerdy, right? At this time of the year with all the shit that's going on, much rather talk about what the Attorney General is doing, right? Instead of talking about this 4-5 football team that's trying to compete and put themselves in a position to make the playoffs, we got to talk about some shit that is interesting, not important. All right, but I digress. He was asked about Taylor Heineke and whether he would remain the starter or would they go back to Carson Wentz. Wentz is eligible to come off of IR next week when Washington travels to Houston to take on the Texans. And Ron kept it consistent. He said, I told you guys before, it's a week-to-week thing. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Nothing has changed. So good for Ron for keeping the message consistent there. Taylor Heineke spoke. Again, Heineke, love the guy. Hard not to root for him. They asked him about the game last week. And, you know, I think he's keeping it close to the vest. He should. But I hope he doesn't believe what he said, which is, you know, the offense I thought played a pretty clean game except for my turnover, my interception. I hope he's just, you know, giving us a status quo answer, the answer that you give that's the easy answer to just move on because you don't really want to elaborate. I hope that's what he did and that he doesn't actually believe he played well because he played terribly against the Minnesota Vikings. Anybody that watched the film saw that. So I hope he realizes and is more critical of his performance behind closed doors than he is with the media. He's usually a straight shooter, so if he was hypercritical of his performance, he would have said it, I'd like to think. So I hope he doesn't believe that they played a clean game except for his interception, because we should have scored 30-some-odd points against the Vikings, but he didn't allow us to do that with his performance in the game. So I hope he doesn't think he played well except for that interception, because that's the way he kind of portrayed it. Like, oh, you know, if we didn't give him a short field, if I didn't throw that interception, you know, we played a pretty clean game. We just had a couple of drives stall out, you know, right in the middle of the field, which is true. But they stalled out because of you. You and Scott Turner and some of these play calls. But a lot of it was because of you. It wasn't just a couple of batted balls. No, it stalled out because you didn't play well. You didn't see the field well. You didn't make decisive, quick decisions with the football. But he was asked about Carson Wentz's, impending return, and does he feel like he's done enough? And I loved his answer. His answer was, again, consistent from back in the preseason when he was asked about, being the starter. And he said, look, I said back in August, July, that I was going to be the best backup. I was going to play my role and do it to the best of my abilities. My role is to back up Carson Wentz. And I was going to do that to the best of my abilities. And if an opportunity came for me to play, I was going to take advantage of it. But my job on this team is to be the best backup quarterback that I can be. I've done that to this point. I got another week to go at a bare minimum. It could be longer. But I'm just going to take advantage of the opportunity that I have in front of me. And if Carson comes back and he's ready to go and they put him in, I'm going to go back to being the best backup I can be to support him. Perfect answer. Love it. That's the mentality that he should have. And because they're going back to Carson. Again, had we beaten Minnesota, you could have swept some of the stuff that he did under the rug because you won, but we lost. And you can't sweep that under the rug. He didn't play well, and he was a huge part of the reason why we lost that game. If you ask me, the biggest reason we lost that game. So, barring a miraculous performance against Philadelphia where he is flawless, damn near flawless, and we go to Philadelphia and upset the 8-0 undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, who are currently a double-digit point favorite in this game, unless he goes there and pulls off a Colt McCoy against the Dallas Cowboys on a Monday night in 2016, unless that's what he's about to do, then there's no way he'll be starting past Week 10, unless Carson Wentz isn't healthy enough to go against the Texans. That's what I envision in my mind. I think they're ready to go back to Carson. But we'll see. He's got a week to prove that maybe that won't be the best decision for the team at this current juncture. We'll see. Let's go ahead and take our first look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, we've been here before. We played the Eagles already this season. We're a different team than when we saw them the first time, but they're a different team. We have to acknowledge that as well. They're much more confident. They know who they are. They're playing the best football right now of any team in the league. And so this is a really daunting task. It would have been more interesting. This game would have been had Carson Wentz been playing, because it would have added another layer of interesting to the mix. Instead, it's really just about, can Washington keep this game competitive enough to give themselves a chance in the fourth quarter? That's all you really ask for. The Eagles have been blowing teams out this season and making the second half, specifically the fourth quarter, non-competitive. A couple of weeks ago when they played the Steelers, they put in Gardner Minshew in the fourth quarter, essentially, and let him finish out the game, right? Like, we're not trying to allow that to happen, to where you got a ball cap on, earpiece in, listening to the play calls, chumming it up with teammates, eating sunflower seeds like it's a preseason game. You're trying to make these boys work, and if they slip up and they slip and we get caught tripping, we can steal one and put them on notice, right? But it's going to be difficult for us to do that if we don't play better than we played against Minnesota. That can't be, like, the expectation is, hey, go in here and do the bare minimum offensively, have the defense play out of their minds, have special teams complement you well enough, and you try to eke by. The Eagles aren't going to allow you to eke by with a 20-17 victory. If you want to beat Philadelphia, you're going to have to score 24, 27, 29, 30 points. Like, they're not going to allow you. The Eagles haven't had a game this season where they've been lousy offensively and the defense carried them. Even that game where they didn't have their fastball offensively against Jacksonville, they still ended up scoring either close to 30 or over 30 points. The defense created like 5 turnovers in the rain, and they still ended up scoring either 30 or damn near 30. Like, you're not going to catch the Eagles slipping like we caught the Vikings slipping. You're not going to catch them slipping, and the defense isn't going to go out, dominate them. Only way that the Eagles don't have, an offensive outburst is if the offense gets on the field and they put together 3 or 4 7, 8, 9-minute drives and devour the time of possession. Keep their offense off the field. We know we're not capable of that. We know we're not capable of that. We may get one of those, maybe a second. You're not getting 3 or 4 of those in a game because something bad's going to happen. A batted ball, a sack, something stupid, a penalty. Something's going to happen that's going to derail the drive with us. And we're not good enough in 3rd and long situations to overcome a penalty, a batted ball, or an incompletion on 1st or 2nd down. And then a stupid run to try to counteract the incompletion to make it 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9. We're not good enough in the 3rd. That's why we're one of the worst 3rd down offenses in football. That's why you look up and we're 2 of 12 or we're 2 of 11 or last week we're 3 of 10 because we don't overcome 3rd and long. So the likelihood that we'll be able to sustain offense, keep the Eagles offense off the field, get their defense tired, wear them down, and keep the score low right in our wheelhouse, highly unlikely. You want to beat Philadelphia? Going to have to score some points. Going to have to score some points. So I look at the Eagles. I know who they are. You know who they are. You've seen them enough. You know how they run their show. All right. A lot of RPOs, read option. I don't worry about Jalen Hurts' legs against our defense. I thought we played him so well. We shut their run game down. It was non-existent. He killed us with his right arm. Specifically, he killed Kendall Fuller in the game on in week 3 in particular. Gave up a big catch down the sideline that should have been challenged. I'm not sure if it was a catch. I'm not sure if it would have been overturned. But we've seen Ron Rivera challenge less and get worse results than not throwing the challenge flag in a crucial situation of a game that was 0-0 at the time. Last game, the frustrating part was we got the Eagles in a lot of 3rd and long situations. We got them right where we want, and we just couldn't get off the field. And there were a lot of slants, a lot of easy completions, guys running wide open. That's the shit that I fear is that, you know, a lot of A.J. Brown running a slant, nobody around him. You know, A.J. Brown running a slant, and we're trying to tackle him instead of going after the football. I think Juice is a better corner. I think he's more confident. I like that matchup against A.J. Brown. The one that scares me is the one that hurt us last time, which is Devontae Smith. We don't have anybody to cover him. I think we can cover A.J. Brown and not allow him to emasculate us. I don't think we have anybody to cover Devontae Smith. That's the problem. Like, Kendall Fuller isn't fast enough to cover Devontae Smith. So that's the matchup that I think scares me the most. I like Danny Johnson, what he brought to the table. You know I'm a Danny Johnson fan. I think he strengthens that secondary. I think we have a chance in this game if our defensive line can do some of the things. I don't expect them to be as dominant as they were against Minnesota because the Vikings offensive line isn't even remotely close to how good the Eagles offensive line is. But the pockets that Jalen Hurts was throwing from in the first contest, those things should be illegal, okay? And those are the same pockets that for the most part he's been throwing from this season. I want to see teams and forget about other teams. I want to see us condense that pocket. I want to see what he does from a muddy pocket. I want to see what he does when he's forced to flush the pocket and there's nowhere to go. I want to see him not be able to stand back there, build a house, and make easy completions to guys that are wide open. But you have to give them credit. Their offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, they've created an environment, and got to give credit to Howie Roseman. They've created an offensive line and an offensive structure. Got to give credit to their head coach, Nick Sirianni. They've created and insulated Jalen Hurts and created an environment that he is comfortable in. I think he struggles when he's uncomfortable. He has not been uncomfortable this season. I want to make him uncomfortable in this game. If we can do that, we'll have a chance to win. Because I don't think the Eagles can run the football on us consistently. They'll have a few hits in the run game. I don't think they're going to rush for 145 yards against us. I think we're going to do what we did to them on the ground again. I think we're going to shut that down. I just don't know if we're good enough to get in Jalen Hurts' face, make him uncomfortable, because when we did pressure him, there were errant throws. I've already laid that out for you. There were opportunities for interceptions. Can we capitalize on one or two of those in this game and not let him get away with those errant throws? Can we pressure him, make him uncomfortable, and see how he handles being uncomfortable? Man, he's been comfortable this season. He was very comfortable in our game, which is why he was as successful as he was. He didn't run. He couldn't run. He tried to, couldn't go anywhere. Stood right in that pocket, though, and some of those pockets, again, there wasn't a defender within 3 yards of him in any direction. And he was just cutting us up, dicing us. If that happens again, we'll get the same result we got the last game. There has to be pressure in his face. Pocket has to be collapsing. Somebody's got to win a one-on-one matchup. We've got the guys up front, and I think we're going to get Chase Young back. Don't know what that even means, especially in his first game back, but anytime you can add another guy, I love our defensive line rotation. Anytime you can add a guy the caliber of a Chase Young to what we've already done this season, I feel really good about that. So, we know what the Eagles are. It's not a secret. We know what they're looking to do. We know who their horses are. We know what they're looking to accomplish. The question is, can we do anything about it? We'll talk more about that as the week progresses, as we prepare for this big Monday night matchup. I've already told you the significance of this game. Like, for the Eagles, it's just another game. It's in the division. Yeah, they don't respect us. They look at the division. They look at where we are. They look at our record. They look at what they did to us the first time. They don't respect us. They think they're going to smoke us on Monday night and have fun doing it. They should feel that way. You want respect? You got to take it. They're not going to give it to us. No bigger stage than Monday night. If you ask me, Sunday night is the flagship, primetime game for the NFL. But everybody's on a high or a low from their team winning or losing on Sunday. Mondays, to me, is the big attraction. Nobody else plays on Monday but this. This is the only show in town on Monday night. Everybody will be watching. All the players that played on Sunday, they'll be watching on Monday. Here's an opportunity to put the league on notice. Don't sleep on these Commanders. Or you can show everybody what they think about us is true. They're all right, but they're not close to Philadelphia. They're the worst team in that division, and, they'll be hovering around 500 trying to fight for a playoff spot. Maybe, maybe not. Who cares? You want to be disregarded? Go into Monday night, put up the performance you put up last time against these boys, get run out of the building, and it'll get worse. It won't be 24-8. This is Monday night. Crowd's going to be raucous. If they get their foot on our throats this time, I don't know if they'll let up. So we'll see what happens. We'll have more on the Eagles during the course of the week leading up to the game. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Thank you for joining me on this installment of Commanders Nightly News. I look forward to chopping it up with you tomorrow. Again, I told you this was going to be a different week, so the Friday episode will be Behind Enemy Lines. We'll have an additional episode on Monday, and it'll be out very early on Monday so that you can consume it well before the game. That's where you'll get my keys to victory. We'll go into the game plan, and then, of course, my prediction for the game. So you'll get that on Monday. That'll be out bright and early Monday morning, so you'll have an opportunity to consume that. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Here comes the Diesel. Here comes the Diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20.